And if you said the N-word, as close as we are, I'd snap. Like, now, would I be offended?
I had a grandfather who was part of a white supremacist group.
Mm.
And so you see me and you sitting here and you think, how could that possibly be? The man was a hateful man. I mean, there's stories of where we were just sitting here before we started shooting, talking about how he would tell me to go out and throw firecrackers at people to scare them. And this was before I was 10 years old. So I was very young, and I grew up in a town of about 1,000 people, a little small town, and 99% of that town was white. And so growing up, I always had something inside of me that was telling me, man, something ain't right about this.
So real quick, you said he had you throwing firecrackers at people, specifically any people or
specifically black people.
Okay.
And to clear things up, I didn't throw any. I was like, no, this is not happening.
You ain't throwing no firecrackers.
No. And so I went home and told my grandmother who raised me, and she's like, man, I never go back over there. And I was like, and at that time I was in this weird space of, I don't understand why I didn't understand. I was young and I was not understanding, why is this man like this? Because I believe that racism is taught. You're not born into knowing that, hey, this is the way it is. You know, my kids play with everybody and they don't know it. They don't know, oh, I shouldn't play with them. And so it's bred into people. And I had an option to let that be bred into me. And I didn't take that road.
I could see just by the way that you are sharing, it still kind of weighs on you right now. But you talked about, and you said the R word. You just threw it right out there. We're talking about racism. Children are sponges. And whether you are intentional about how you feel about a particular group of people or not, how you express that in and around your children, it's going to come out.
And we can fast forward some. And I'm in an interracial marriage. I've been married to my wife for 15 years. And so I had a lot of heirlooms that my family had given me throughout the years and things like that.
Can I just say that's a white people thing?
Heirloom?
Yeah, I
had some trinkets. I had some stuff that my family came from them, right?
I'm just messing with you.
And me and my wife had been married a year. We were still living downtown. And I told her, I said, hey, do me a favor, go to the closet and grab this box.
Right.
Because I need something out of it. And I didn't even remember that it was even in there. And I come home and there's a pocket knife sitting on the table. And she says, hey, what is this? And it was a pocket knife from my grandpa that had a white supremacist insignia on it. And she's like, what part of life is this? And I had to sit there and explain, hey, this was just part of the stuff that I got. It was just part of what I got. And it took me back to a place of so much hatred. And for us to sit here today and for me to call you my true brother, I mean that. Who spends time with me at my house and comes and see, and it shouldn't have always been like that. It could have went another way.
It definitely could have been another way. And I'm gonna let you get back into your story. My father, before he went into the military, was also, so this particular party, because I don't want to call them necessarily a black nationalist group, because that's kind of how they were painted. When they really organized to protect the neighborhood from police brutality and a lot of the injustices that were going on in the day. So I think that we are intentionally trying not to use people's names just because I don't know how that works on legal and all that type of stuff. But you know who we're talking about, and so for he was really defiant, I guess I could say.
Would you go to the point of saying he was militant?
Absolutely militant. Absolutely militant. And I believe that the military actually helped to save him and kind of grounded him and gave him maybe some structure that he was running from. But a lot of those ideals, I think, that are in our families early, I think they're still pervasive in a way. I think that even in our subconscious, and this is probably what we don't talk about in public, a lot of what we call racism, I don't know is racism. I believe racism is when one particular group would make themselves superior to any other group and would want to hold them down, beneath them in any way that they can, socially, economically. That's racism. I think that we are all guilty of prejudice, which is prejudging. I could look at anyone, even someone of my own race, and come up with an idea about them that absolutely doesn't fit just because of what I thought I saw, what I thought I heard, right? And I think oftentimes we're all guilty of that, and we can blame it on media, we can blame it on television and movies and literature and music. But all of those things come from someone's ideals or um, the way that they think. And so I think in people's family groups, some things are allowed to be said. And this is what I said earlier, even if it's not intentional, how you feel about a thing and how you express that around children, it's being absorbed.
Do you feel that the way that your dad felt about things, was it projected upon you?
Projected, I don't, again, intentionally, probably not. But I know that he felt a way about certain people based on how he grew up and how he was treated. And so some of those things would come out, right? Things that I believe that when people are at home and around their people are allowed to say things that are off color, pun intended. And it's okay because it's just us. We don't really mean any harm. It's the stereotype. But in public, and if you were with my one white friend, right, I wouldn't say that.
Yeah.
And I put it on this side intentionally because
But it's on both sides.
yes,
Absolutely.
absolutely on both sides. And I think that when we hear these things that we wouldn't want to be said about ourselves or someone that we love, I think that someone has to have the courage to check that and be like, is that really how you think? Or do you think that that's really what that is? And until we give people, I think, the space to be themselves when we move beyond prejudice. So,
But there's been times in our relationship where there's been things said.
I was just going to go there.
There's been things that were said, and from both sides, and we would say, "Hey, can you explain that?" Or can we go deeper into that to understand where that's coming from?
So I was going to go from a jokey standpoint
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not going to point fingers at nobody else, but I know sometimes I think I'm funny and I will say some off color stuff to Scott, but that would go absolutely in line with stereotypes,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I don't really think that, or I don't really feel like that.
But if somebody else heard it, they'd be like, "Oh my, what is this guy talking about?
And vice versa.
Exactly.
Right. So what were you talking about? Like, is that really how you think? Or
When
give me an example.
there's words that's used in culture, and there's words that I won't say. When it's said, it strikes something in me because I know the real meaning behind it.
Just call it out. I'm not telling you to say the word, but what just
that
say it, man.
people have a name for one another, and they call each other the N-word.
Okay.
And so
now we're talking about
so
something.
for me, I would never say it because I've seen it used as a very derogatory statement.
Right.
And I feel, and I know culture has made it where it is acceptable.
Absolutely.
But when I hear it, it totally changes the way I feel about things because I know how it's been used in the past.
So this is a conversation that we go back and forth with all the time. And I think I'm doing better.
Absolutely.
But I still will throw the N-word out there from time to time. And now, whenever I do, I'm calling my own foul because you are my brother. I don't call you my brother. The way that we do life together with our families, you're my brother. And I don't care. You could be Neapolitan. Shout out to the Travis Scotts with the pink laces. I see you. You are my brother. And if you said the N-word, as close as we are, I'd snap. Like, now, would I be offended? Probably not. But are we going to have a conversation about it? Like, oh, that's what we're doing now. So if it would be a problem for you to say it, why should I still feel comfortable with using that, knowing how it was introduced? Yeah, we've made it a term of endearment amongst ourselves, but or someone would say we've taken it back. We've taken ownership of it for ourselves. But you could be mid-conversation, and I've said it 7 times in one sentence, and then somebody else said it.
It shuts everything down. And for me, I have biracial children.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm in a biracial marriage. I gotta have,
that's how that works.
Sometimes. I mean, I could have kids out of, but my kids are biracial. And I don't want them to use that term because they are 100% black and 100% white. They're not part anything. And sometimes that dynamic is not easy for them because they feel like they're caught in two cultures. I'm not white enough and I'm not black enough. And my oldest daughter's coming to the age where she knows that, hey, I got to have friends and stuff. And I can see that struggle that she's going through of where am I at in this thing? And I tell her, you are who you are. There's no difference in any of it. But I can see that struggle coming.
I don't know if she'll beat me up for this, but I'm married to a biracial woman. Her father was white, and obviously her mother is black. And you can see that internal struggle sometimes. Like, it is still difficult for her at, almost at her age. I don't know if she cares about that or not. She still looks good for her. But at 40 plus years old, to watch a movie that has a civil rights. We watched 688 the other day, and I often take a second to just kind of step back and watch her because you're absolutely right. She's 100% white. She's 100% black. But that conflict that's as it's being portrayed on the screen, you can see just there's this discomfort that she has because she can absolutely identify with both sides. Her grandfather, as a matter of fact, she wasn't even allowed to come around that side of the family until he passed away. So those ideals and that mindset, that thought process sometimes is so strong and so restrictive that it takes intentionality to move beyond that. You have to want to, and I'll even speak to another elephant in the room. You're married to a black woman. So the stereotype when people look at you and see that, and you like to wear J's and you think you be fly when you dress or whatever. So on surface level, someone's like, "Oh, he think he black," or he a white dude trying to act black. And if I hear that, I'm like, nah, he white.
100%.
Absolutely. Right.
I wasn't trying to search out to find a black woman to marry.
Right.
I was looking for, as a matter of fact, I didn't even want to be married. I had come to a point in my life where I thought marriage wasn't for me. I was like, man, I can keep living this thing like this and I'm doing real good. But I met her at church. We started dating, and it didn't matter her skin color. But I will say this, one thing that really worried me was taking her back to meet my family, because I really didn't know how it was going to go, because there was nobody. And I wouldn't say that my family that I deal with today are by any means racist, but there's some prejudice there, or I thought it would be. My preconceived idea was this is what's going to happen. But when we got there, there was no sense of
any difference.
Or you know how you walk into a room and you know when you're not wanted. You can feel that. There wasn't none of that. And now I believe they probably love my wife more than they love me, because they attracted and they embrace her. And I didn't know how that was going to go because it had never been introduced into our family.
But what I hear you saying is exactly what I said. It was when we take each person as an individual instead of making it a monolith, like all white people are the same, all white men are the same, all black men, all black people are the same. And I think when we do that, we don't give people the opportunity to be an individual. And until you sit down, and I think that most of the time we want the same things, right? We want to be loved. We want to love. We want to see our families do well.
So I think everybody's got a good picture of kind of where we came from and kind of the viewpoints and how our friendship started and how it continued on. And I think just the prejudice that we both come from, and in my case, it was more racism, to be where I'm at today it's pretty amazing to get to sit with people and just talk to them and get to know their lives. That's what I've started trying to do, is get to know where. That's really something. We don't know where a person started and why they are the way they are. And if we don't let them tell their story, we'll never know that. So, guys, I guess that's it for today. We're back at it. Man, go back and watch season 1. We got 10 episodes there. We'll be continuing on. We're going to get some more guests in here. Hit us up in the comments. Let us know what you're thinking. So with Heart of the Matter podcast, I'm Scott.
Marcus.
See you next time.
See you next time. Hey guys, welcome back to Heart of the Matter podcast.
I think we're ready to start a new season. This season is going to be definitely different than the first season. We're going to start bringing guests in. So it's going to be a little bit different. You know, we want to thank y'all for rocking with us last season. Thank you for your support. And we hope to bring you some more good content in season 2.